What's up, gang? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown. The count ain't stopped yet. One Kickstarter campaign. No, wrong count. We may run out of interesting campaigns eventually, but not yet. Not yet. And when that happens, well, I guess you just have to go back in time and watch all the other ones and see which ones are still available for late pledges, I guess. But enough of that. We're taking a look at every single board game campaign this week. Enough with the jibber jabber spin-off from Jib Jab. Let's get into it. Now, first up, we have Word Royale, which is a speed game, sort of, where you get a bunch of letters in front of you. Well, 3 letters. 3 is a bunch, right? As all the best bunches are, you get 3 in them. Triples. And a category will be turned up, and you have about 10 seconds to say a word that relates to that category that starts with one of the letters in front of you. And this goes around the circle until there's only one person remaining, and that person gets control of the card, and you get a certain number of points depending on the difficulty of the category, and the first person to 5 points wins. Or they even say in the video that it could be a good drinking game, and it even comes with rules for this to be a drinking game, which I assume is, if you can't think of a word, you drink. That seems like a pretty safe bet that those are the rules. I feel pretty good about that guess. And honestly, as drinking games go, well, this might be a good one. This game is also known by its second title, Whoever Gets the Q is Screwed. But there's a chance for all the letters to rotate. Cards will come up that will swap random letters. So make sure to start thinking of your Q-based fruits now. Kumquat. It's the alternate spelling. And I mean, you know what? This seems fine. There are only 14 categories though, so I feel like with a game like this, you'd want the variety of those different categories, but the good news is you could just write down a whole bunch of categories and mix them up yourself. There also is a print and play for $4 US, so just print it out. Or you can get a physical copy for $8 US, and at this price point, this seems like exactly the price point that I'd want to pay for this game. And this is also a price point that you don't often see on Kickstarter as well. So it's really nice to see that this game isn't $20 as some other smaller card games on this list will inevitably be. It also says that if you get in on the early bird pledge, you can get it before Christmas. So another game to test your relationship over Christmas. There aren't any shipping details about how much it'll cost, but I mean, it's a deck of cards, right? How much could shipping possibly be? Famous last words. Anyway, if you are interested, that is Tuesday tomorrow at 12:59 p.m. Next up, we have the multilingual memory game called My Sweet Friends. And this is one that I was going to tease mercilessly for its subtitle, or really its actual title. My Sweet Friends, the memory game. And I will tease it mercilessly. There's no but there. I am going to tease it mercilessly. It's the official title. My Sweet Friends. But this one is actually pretty cool. I mean, it's Memory, the game for children. And hardcore gamers. I've been playing a game of Memory with myself and my keys for the last 17 days. When I find them, I'll finally be able to leave my apartment, which inexplicably has a deadbolt on the inside of the door. Like a lock and key. Not that lock and key. But what's cool about it is that it is multilingual. So you can choose from a bunch of different languages. These ones right here. There's over 40, I think. I'm pretty sure, if you count them. I'll delete it before you have a chance to count them anyway. But I think this is such a cool idea. It comes with a sticker sheet of all these languages, and then you can choose which 4 to put on your card to have your child associate those languages with that card. So you'll learn that dolphin is iruka in Japanese. But I think for the game Memory already being a really good tool for early childhood development, or at least I assume it is because that's all that I see early childs playing. That's what infants are referred to, right? Early childs? I'm pretty sure. So since that is something that they're playing already, why not add different languages into the mix and encourage that learning at a young age? I think that's a really neat twist to it, a simple twist, and I'm sure it will elevate Memory in a way it's never been elevated before. Whoever thought I'd be saying that sentence? I mean, it is $29 Canadian, so you'll have to tell me if that's too steep a price or not for Memory. But I really like the concept here, and I like the moving forward with a game that has been around forever. So if you have small children, maybe check it out. I don't know if any game has done this before, but I know this one has, so there you go. And your deadline for that is 7/14 on Tuesday. Now, next up, we have Deception, a game of lies. And this one is struggling to fund a bit, but I wanted to mention it because it's basically the British panel show, Would I Lie to You? If you've ever wanted that in a game version, well, here you go. Take Deception, Game of Lies. And if you haven't heard of the panel show, well, it's pretty funny. People will tell stories, all of them outlandish, and some of them will be true, and some of them will be lies. And then you have 1 minute to cross-examine everybody, and whoever has the most fun wins, really, as is the case with many party games. You want to fool the people into believing that your story is true, if it isn't, or that your story is a lie if it is true, and then you also get some fun story prompts as well. So the game just gives you roles as to if you're a liar or if you're a truth teller, and then it'll give you some sort of prompts like, tell us something bad that you did, something illegal, something naughty. It's a real prompt. So if you think that sounds fun with telling outlandish stories in the 1 minute interrogation, remember the bright, shiny desk lamp is not included, and it is BYOBV. Bring your own Batman voice. Where are they? Where are they? We can still do that reference, even though it was like 10 years ago. It's 23 bucks Canadian, or you can opt for their print and play, in which they'll also have their team of experts tell one lie for you. So if you need an email getting out of work, or you need an email to fake a reference, you need an email as to why you can no longer see your spouse anymore, this is for you. For those of you who will need an alibi later on, this is a pretty good deal. One get out of jail free card, presumably. I mean, realistically, I should get this pledge and their contact information and slowly build up this narrative that I'm about to murder someone, and then contact them in a fit of panic saying, please, I've just committed murder. How do I hide the body? Force them to cover up my crime, then have them sent to jail as an accessory to said murder 10 to 20 to 40 years later when we get out on parole. Boy, will I have the biggest gotcha moment in store for them. And that's why you don't tell lies. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that is Wednesday, December 1st at 12 a.m. midnight, aka Tuesday night. Now next we head over into GameFound, talking about two things that I have already talked about, who also end on December 1st, as will the majority of this incredibly long list. It's bananas. So first, your heads up. I know I talked about Twisted Fables last week, but a heads up that it does finish on December 1st. If you are interested in that, they still have plenty of copies of the game. They're not necessarily flying off the shelves as much as I expected them to, so if you're interested, check that out. But we're not here to talk about them. They got their moment in the sun last week, or in the cold, I guess, because it's cold. It depends where you live. But we're here to talk about, as the timestamp says, Skyrim. But we've also already talked about. So I do have a 5 reasons why you shouldn't back Skyrim that's up, where I go into detail about what I think is interesting about the game and what I think is less than interesting about the game. But there have been a few updates since then, and most notably, there now has this free roaming mode, where you don't actually have to follow the main storyline. You can just run around and complete quests willy-nilly, and I guess it's still cooperative. You'd think it would be competitive. Maybe it is, to see who could complete the most quests first, right? But in this one, you can play in the free roaming mode, and if you buy this extra expansion, you get all the pieces necessary to play with 5 to 8 players. So if you wanted to play this, what I believe is a solo game with 5 to 8 players, well, make sure you pick up that expansion for £20. But the best part about this expansion is that in the base game, you get 6 miniatures. And in the expansion, to play up to 8 people, you get 0 more miniatures. So you get some extra player sheets and some mats, but 2 of you will have to be tokens, I guess. And just why? Why this disparity? It's so dumb. It's another obvious reason of them trying to get people to buy that extra mini set so that they actually have the pieces to play this new expanded gameplay experience. Just throw in 2 extra little minis in this. What are you doing? I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I really hope that I am wrong, but I looked for a while and I don't think that I am. I don't think there are any other stretch goals planned which will add these miniatures. I don't see the base game getting any more miniatures either, so I think I'm right. And it's just, I just can't with this campaign. I mean, the game looks all right. It looks like a fun little narrative short campaign experience. But the overinflated price points and just the poor decisions, or rather the pledge at a higher tier so you actually get the full game decisions that they are attempting to push on people, I don't know, it just turns me right off. Really does. But hey, if you're excited for it, well, don't let me dissuade you. You probably weren't going to play with 5 to 8 people anyway. So I hope that you love it. But for me personally, I don't think it's really worth taking a gamble on for the amount of money that it costs. But if you are interested, remember that your deadline for that is December 1st at 3 p.m. And this is really actually a deadline because they're going to be charging cards on the 5th and then starting shipping as soon as possible because they already have those accelerated timelines that I talked about in the other video. So just be sure of that. This is an actual deadline and not a, oh, I can wait 3 months for the pledge manager to finally open deadline, as most of these things go. So next up, we have Nano 9 games, which are games for 1 to 2 players that they say are tough to master, using 9 cards, 9 dice, and 9 cubes as their components, and that's it. And then you can take all 3 of these games, if you have them, to combine them into this one bigger game called Empire Planner, which is kind of a cool idea. I like the concept of micro games, and I like the concept of them being able to be combined into this giant megazord. But if you don't like the concept of your games having 9 dice, 9 cards, and 9 cubes, well then stay away from the campaign page. I mean, it's a cool gimmick, it is, but when the only thing you tell me about your games for a while on the campaign page is that they have 9 cards, 9 dice, and 9 cubes, and you tell it to me 9 times, well, it starts to feel 9 years old and makes me realize that there are at least 9 other games on this list that I'd rather be backing. I mean, it's a fun concept, but anyone can just shout about the number of components that they have. Well, to be fair, that's really all Kickstarter is anyway, just shouting about your components. This game plays up to 8 and gives you 6 minis! So fair play to you, Nano 9 Games. I take it all back, and I give you 9 thumbs up. Also, the cards are not your regular cards, they're giant cards. They're 5.75 inches by 3.5 inches. See, I told you 3.5 inches was giant. I wasn't misrepresenting myself, Tinder Trixie, because I was almost there. I was 3 inches off, who cares? Tinder Trixie, you're better than this, Chris. Too bad, it's staying in. That's what, nope. Now, keep in mind, only 2 of these games are actually 2-player friendly, and the other one is 2-player angry, aka solo only. AKA me after that horrendous date with Tinder Trixie. And the rulebooks are fairly straightforward. They have them all on the campaign page, but to be honest, nothing really jumps out to me about these. I mean, if you're looking for a small 2-player game that you want to spend 26 bucks Canadian on, or $65 Canadian for all 3, I don't really think that this beats something like Hanamakoji from last week. But the minimal components and portability might be a draw for you. I don't know if you've heard, but each game comes with 9 dice, 9 cubes, and 9 cards, which they do keep referring to in their campaign as being funny. That it's funny to have this amount of components. And you know what? It's probably not what you're expecting me to say, but I agree. I think it is funny. I'm pretty sure that 9 is the funniest number. I mean, somebody told me that in university, and it stuck with me. It's the right amount, it's the perfect amount of excess to make a joke seem absurd and funny. But then when I Googled what's the funniest number, 37 came up, and I have to agree that 37 is also a pretty funny number, so I don't know where that leaves us. I guess 9 is the most delicious number, for sure, because, well, you know, 7, 8, 9. We're moving on. If you want, check it out. It's December 1st at 1:10 a.m. I know I put Skyrim and the other one out of order. This one comes first. So this one's basically Tuesday night as well. Now, next up, we have Karigar-e-Taj, Artisans of the Taj Mahal. And I'm really hooked by this video. It tells the story of the Taj Mahal, that in 1631, Emperor Shah Jahan lost the love of his life, Mumtaz Mahal, the chosen one of the palace, and legend says that he was so grief-stricken that he decided to erect this beautiful monument in her honor. And apparently it took 22 years, 22,000 workers and karigar, that's the word for artisans really, and several elephants to build the Taj Mahal. And that's what they say. 22 years, 22,000 karigar and workers, and several elephants. And I think this is really cool. I love that they apparently know the exact number of karigar and workers and not the number of elephants. I guess all the workers clocked in, but you can't really have the elephants do their timestamps with their hooves. So how many were there? Several. Probably 9. But who cares, because elephants were there and they are amazing. But it is a beautiful story, so why not capture that beauty in a game? I do take issue with them saying that this is the greatest monument that a man has ever created for a woman, because some might say that this YouTube channel is really a monument to Maggie. And while I'm not saying it's a greater monument than the Taj Mahal, but some people have said that. I have heard people say it. Who can really say? Is Room and Board a more fantastic creation than the Taj Mahal? Some might say probably. Some might say yes. I'm not saying these things. Most of them are from the YouTube commenters, very active, whose username is definitely not Chris George's alternate account. So shout out to you. But the game looks fairly decent. It's your standard worker placement. You put your workers in the market and they get resources. And you use those resources to build sections of the Taj Mahal and get victory points, or they refer to them as Taj points. Well, in the video that they have, he also refers to them as victory points, and then he does what I do whenever I make a mistake and just writes Taj points in the bottom. We know they're victory points. And so when the Taj Mahal is finally built, whoever has the most Taj points wins the game. And these spaces in the market, in the bazaar, will change over time as the Taj Mahal gets built. But you'll also have these secret objectives of the specific sections of the Taj Mahal that you want to build, because you'll put your little marker on it showing that you built it, and then at the end of the game you can reveal it and get additional points if you built those specific sections, because you're the one who wanted to build the south-facing pavilion and achieve all of the glory that goes along with it. But another really neat thing about this is that a worker can only carry one resource. So you can start by putting all of your workers down in a spot together, and if the place generates 2 resources, you're going to need 2 workers at least to carry both of those resources and bring them back so that you can use them. But what's also interesting about this worker placement is that you can then only move your workers in a orthogonal way along the grid, either into the same row or the same column. And so if they're together, they both can move at once, and that might be beneficial. But if you split them up, they can cover more ground, but they'll be able to get less resources. So I think this movement element actually makes it look pretty interesting and is a neat puzzle that you'll have to attempt. So it's 45 bucks Canadian or 35 bucks US for the base game, and this seems like a pretty good price point for what you're getting. I mean, you may want to just play your copy of Architects of the West Kingdom instead, because it feels like a smaller, different version of that, obviously. But I really like the movement rules, and I think it's a neat thing. And they've got a good rulebook, but they do have a great how to play video. If you're interested in it at all, check that out. It'll really give you a firm grasp of the feeling of the game and how to play, if my firm grasp of the feeling of the game wasn't enough. But it looks really cool. Definitely one to check out and help build the Taj Mahal, which was once referred to as a teardrop on the cheek of time. I don't have any jokes about that. I just think it's really beautiful. I wish I'd come up with it. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that is December 1st at 1:31 a.m., aka Tuesday night. That's going to be a theme. Now, next up, we have a game called Thor's Cliff, which I can only assume is from that Wuthering Heights song. Thor's Cliff, it's me, I'm Kathy, I've come home and I'm so cold. That is a real song by Kate Bush. Look it up. It's called Wuthering Heights. My friend Marcella did it at a karaoke night, and she was doing all of these actions, and we were killing ourselves. We didn't know that she was actually just replicating the music video to a T, because it's great. Anyway, that aside, I actually didn't call it by its proper name, Thor's Cliff, a non-cooperative game, which I don't know why they had to specify it. Maybe Thor is getting upset at being lumped in with all the Avengers and wants more of his own movies. Maybe they wanted to channel the Vikings' true non-cooperative nature. I mean, they really should have just specified that it was also a non-campaign, non-legacy, non-worker placement, non-economy, non-party game to really cover all their bases. But I guess Kickstarter doesn't allow that many characters. Not like this channel.
Yeah, what are you saying?
We allow plenty of characters in here. I mean, it's not funding currently. It's close, that's why I'm mentioning it. I think it's not funding because of its $86 price point or $129 price point if you want to add in the really cool troll miniatures. And that's too bad, because it does look neat. I like that it is a 3D terrain area control sort of skirmish game that the levels of the terrain really matter because you can only move a certain amount up or down or across if you're on the same terrain. So you're going to run around trying to get 3 golden coins or amber coins and bring them to a sanctuary, or to murder 3 trolls and get 3 shining diamonds, and then you win the game as well. I think that 3D map is the draw and also is what's making it more expensive. So for me, it feels like this one would overstay its welcome a little bit with its projected time being 1 to 2 hours. I feel like a game like this I'd want to play in like 45 minutes of a quick moving around on this map and angling and whatever. I don't know, but it looks cool enough that I wanted to mention it. So if you are interested, check it out. Your deadline for that is December 1st at 2:47 a.m. Now, next up, we have the game Resurgence, and this is by designer Stan Kordansky. That's him. He designed Endless Winter, Rurik Dawn of Kiev, Dice Hospital. Those are all games that I have not played, and yet I have heard many, many people speak very fondly of. So this one, Resurgence, is a bag building, action planning, worker placement in a post-apocalyptic world where resources are scarce and you have to fight to survive. Where's my credit card? Yes, please. And it looks complicated, but it's only because there are so many interlinking parts. You're going to be upgrading your base while upgrading your character's abilities, while developing your bag, while completing various missions, while blocking out other people in spots for their worker placement aspect of it, while also having that hidden action reveal of where you've placed your people and when they're going to act, and how much you're going to move up on this other track. And it's actually this hidden action reveal that gets me the most excited about this game, because it reminds me of the tension of the battle mechanic in Rising Sun, which, I mean, as if I needed more excuse to be interested in this one. The tension of trying to anticipate your opponent's movements, just outbid them, or just do enough to edge them out in all of these various situations that you're all trying to compete over to accrue points over 6 rounds. So if you like games with lots of moving parts, definitely look at this one. It's hard for me to capture a sense of this game in a quick little tidbit because there are all these interlocking parts and they all really do feel integral to the game experience, or at least from what I've read and looked into. In terms of their Kickstarter upgrades, I think the best part of it is that they have upgraded to silkscreen wooden tokens, which in a bag building game I think is fairly significant. I know this after playing a ton of games of Orleans, and well, my tokens have started to kind of wear down to the oil of my fingers just resting in the bag. So anything that can increase that longevity, that's why I bought the plastic tokens for Trudvang, because the plastic runes have constantly drawn them out, I think is a really solid upgrade and is really important for these sort of bag builders to make sure that it has the longevity that you're going to want from these sorts of games. It's also got a pretty decent price point too. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a fair amount of components. It's going for $55 US or $70 Canadian, which, I mean, it's still on the higher end. You still have to factor in shipping, right? It's $20 shipping for Canadians, but you can add in extra copies up to 4 to negate some of that shipping. So if you get together with a group buy and seriously look into a group buy, save yourself the shipping, if you get into something like that, it would work out to be like $8 shipping versus the $20 shipping, which is a pretty good deal in these horrible shipping times, as long as they follow through with it. I mean, I was pretty bummed recently that I had to pay something like $31 or $36 shipping for Lords of Vala when they had previously quoted me $20 worth of shipping. So not the greatest, but also I just paid it without thinking, oh yeah, that's what it costs, because I know, well, that's what it costs. And I didn't remember to look back and make a stink about it if I had wanted to try to cut it down or whatever, or inquire to make sure that it was the actual shipping cost. So double check these sort of estimates. I know they're all subject to change, but it's a crummy feeling having to pay more in shipping than what is quoted to you. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the case. I'm just saying that this is why you have to make sure that you are really excited for these Kickstarter games. So if those situations occur, and honestly they probably will, it'll still feel worth it to you. I'm not bummed because I'm excited about the game. I'm excited about supporting that one, and so I'm okay paying that shipping cost, even if I was quoted a lower amount. Anyway, that's a tangent. That's not about Resurgence. I have no reason to believe that their shipping won't be like this. I was just on the subject of shipping and making it lower. Try to do those group buys so that it is lower for yourself. This one looks really cool. definitely worth looking into. I'm very surprised it doesn't have, it's not even over 100,000 Canadian yet, and it feels like it really should. If you like intricate Euros, check this one out. The deadline for that is December 1st at 11:58 a.m. Now, next up, we have Starfighter's Rapid Fire. And this is a fun one. Basically, you're going to have some dice. You're going to roll them as fast as you can, allocating them to different parts of your ship until one person around the table hits a button and says, "Fire!" Then you have to stop rolling your dice and use the dice that you have allocated to move your little fighters around a grid and shoot at each other and try to be the last person standing. That's it. It's just this real-time dice checking, blow up your friends action. That's the genre. That's really all you need to know about it. If that sounds interesting to you, check it out. I mean, it is $50 Canadian for their retail version, which is a little expensive for me after the shipping gets factored in, especially because it's the retail version, and you might as well wait until it gets to retail or inquire into your local game store if it will be at retail. Probably get it for slightly cheaper. Or you can pay $10 more for the deluxe, which gives you a few extra wooden tokens and a solo mode, which, I don't know, maybe. I don't think this is really a solo game. I think the enjoyment comes from rolling against your friends as quickly as possible rather than rolling against an ominous space stopwatch. I mean, it does seem fun. It really does. But since it's not the deal of the century for me, I'll just wait and try it again some other time. And if you want some real-time dice checking, check out Fuse. It's cooperative, but it's also kind of fun. Although you are, again, competing against that ominous space stopwatch. So maybe the solo mode won't be so bad after all. If you're interested in that one, that is December 1st at 6:59 p.m. Now, next up, we have Snackbox Mini, or the first 4 games in a planned Snackbox series. And these 4 are about deadly jellyfish, skateboarding, tasty tacos, and a space race. And which one of these sounds the tastiest? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Spoiler alert, it's the one about food. What I do know is that they all have more components than just 9 cards, 9 dice, and 9 cubes, so it's not looking good for them. But I guess we'll take a look. They do have these flippy little boxes, TM, which is a pretty significant draw, so. Now, I think the key with any of these pocket-sized games is affordability, easy rules, and quick to set up. And their projected time of 10 minutes for a game is a nice time point for this little niche market. It's a great target, and that should let you know kind of what depth of strategy to expect from these games. At $20 Canadian for one, you're sitting kind of in the middle of the road. $55 Canadian for 4, that seems like a significantly better deal, but again, you have to like all 4, and I'm not sure if all 4 are worth it, to be honest. And even worse, you have to have a dress that has 4 pockets in it instead of 1. And I know finding a dress with 1 pocket is already a miracle, so. But I also really appreciate, and I love when campaigns do this, that they have a graph underneath each title telling you a number of different categories, where it falls, how easy it is to learn, how much push your luck is in there, how family friendly is it. And while all of these are made up by them, it's still a great tool to use as a bar to determine which one might be up your alley. So let's go through them quickly just so you have a sense at what they are. So first we have Irukanji. I assume I'm mispronouncing that, or maybe I got it right. Where you're going to get a set number of beach tiles or wave tiles, and you get to, one after another, put one down in one of 3 lanes. And then once all the lanes of water are created, you know where some of the things are. You get to choose which lane that you want to swim in. So it's about trying to bluff your opponent into thinking that you're putting good tiles where you're not, or putting bad tiles where you're not, and then being able to swim through the waves the fastest and not encounter any scary squids or whatever. And if you get to the beach first, you score points. First person to 2 points wins. It's pretty simple. Honestly, better than I initially expected, judging by what they were giving me before I read the rules. 2 pages of rules. You can go check them out yourself. It's a pamphlet. This one is definitely going to be best at 3 players for sure, because there's some interesting bluffing, and it's better that everyone has a chance to put tiles down rather than one of the lanes being computer generated, basically. Now the next one is Skate Park, where you want to pull off the most tricks at the skate park. Tony Hawk, Box Snacker. So each player is going to get a hand of trick cards, and they have different trick types associated with them, like a flip or a grind, which coincidentally are Tinder Trixie's favorite moves. Okay, enough of that. And they also have a score if you manage to pull those tricks out at the right time. So you're going to pick an obstacle pick a trick card, and then roll dice to see if you match symbols on the card. If you do, you get to score the points. If you don't, the person who has the highest points gets that obstacle, and the person with the most obstacles at the end of the game wins. And they get to drag home their cement blocks along with them because they have won the physical obstacles. And so it's pure push your luck, time out when to use your good trick cards versus the other ones. See how many obstacles you can come away with. Now next, chimichangas and tacos is the simplest of the games. You draw 2 ingredients from a pile, you keep one, and you put the other one back. You can either hold that into your hand or play it in front of you, which you're always going to want to do because you're going to get ahead that way. But the trick is you can make all these different recipes, but you have to assemble them in order. Because you can't just throw your guacamole down and then put a taco over it and just roll around. Who's going to want to eat that? So maybe that's why you hold on to them, because you drew 2 guacamole and you can't throw your guacamole at the beginning of the game. You score the meals that you managed to complete. You lose points for meals you didn't manage to complete. The first person to win 2 rounds wins. And finally, you've got Slingshot, which is a race across the planets, Yahtzee style. Each planet has a specific pattern that you need to make with the dice, and you can roll the dice up to 3 times. And if you do, you get to proceed to the next planet, taking any sort of crystals that are on the planet along the way, and then you replace it for the next person to take the crystals as well. But if you're the first person to move, there won't be any crystals on the existing planet, so you'll just be leaving these gorgeous little crystals behind you for other people to gather. Or you can forego your turn entirely and get yourself a crystal, which can be used for special abilities. So do you try to get some crystals, or do you keep on plowing ahead and hope that catch-up mechanic, the board game, Slingshot, won't come back to bite you? So those are the 4. Hopefully that gives you a sense. I don't know if I'm particularly interested in any of them, but if I had to rank them, I think I would go tacos is definitely number 1. Maybe the swimming one is number 2, then skateboard, then slingshot, but they're all pretty comparable for me after tacos. If you're interested, check them out. It's an all right price point. 20 bucks Canadian is not bad for a light little game. But I don't know, I'm just not a huge light little game person. So, and honestly, it's always the shipping that scares me off. Although this one I think also is fairly minimal. I'm not quite sure what it is. So I don't know how I feel about them, but you know what? That's the benefit of you having your own opinion, because you can tell me what to think. Anyway, if you're interested, that is December 1st. What a surprise. At 7:54 p.m. And that's it for Wednesday. We made it through Wednesday. That wasn't so bad. We still have a full week to go. But there actually aren't too many left, and the next one that is left is Megapulse. And I can definitely say that it is a game that was next on my list. But this is a little racing game where your little cars get to go pew 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 all around a brightly colored neon track. And if you couldn't tell it was a racing game, then hopefully on their campaign page, when they compare it to every popular racing video game that has existed, well, maybe that would clue you in and let you know. Well, but do you like Mario Kart? Oh, well, it's like that. Do you like F-Zero? It's like that. They're very different games. Do you like this other game? It's that too. Wow. Pretty big shoes, Megapulse. I mean, to be fair, I don't really like racing games. Well, maybe that's not true. I like Camel Up. Does that count? But there really hasn't been a racing game that has gotten me excited. And this one, it's no different. It's close, but it doesn't push me over that threshold into a love of racing games now. But if you do like racing games, this one definitely has some fun stuff going for it. I really like that it's not dice-based, but it's card selection. So you're going to pick 2 cards, you're going to commit to them, and then you're going to flip them up. And that'll depend on if you kind of boost forward, or if you throw a bomb behind you, or try to change lanes to get another on the other booster, or repair your car, just sit in the middle of the track and go, nope, gotta get those cranes in line. It doesn't really work, does it? I also like that you have to manage how much grip you have on the track because you're driving hover cars. I feel like even I might have a good time with this because it does seem like there are a lot of moving parts. And, well, that's pretty important when you're driving a hover car, to have a lot of moving parts. Back down to 0 subscribers. It's $61 Canadian for the base game, which is not a bad price either. I really like that $60 price point for games. I mean, until until the times where I don't, because they're just a deck of cards for $60, in which case that's ludicrous. You can get another tier which gives you an expansion for like $100, but I would just opt for the base game. I don't really see the expansion offering anything more because the base game does offer you what I think is going to be a decent racing experience. But hey, again, what do I know? All racing games look the same to me. Is that racist? Oh, this has been a sorry state of a segment. I don't know if that was a good joke or not. But I do know that it finishes December 2nd at 11 a.m. I'm really sorry that this isn't more apt or in more detail. I was excited to look at this one, and I think this is certainly better than Formula D. If you like that, definitely look into this one. I really do think that this is a good foray into the genre. It just hasn't personally revolutionized my own thinking about racing games. Now, up next, we have our most funded this week, and that's raised over $750,000 Canadian, and that's Hegemony, which I just learned today is called Hegemony and not Hegemony, as I was also previously pronouncing it. I don't know how I got that in my head, but I'm probably going to blame Alex over at Board Game Co. But I mean, then again, I also called Hermione Hermione, so could very well be on me. I think it's on me. Anyway, so Hegemony, where you get to struggle forward as a working class, desperately hoping to not be crushed under the foot of the capitalist class. So named the capitalist class because it was a lot more tolerable than wealthy elites who don't really give a shit about anybody that doesn't help their own bottom line. Or you can try not to be crushed under the foot of the state, who apparently also don't care about any other class except themselves, reigning supreme. Except they really do care about all the other classes because that's how they get points, so kind of a nice way of thinking there. I mean, I was ready to be a little offended, and hey, I still might be when they refer to the working class as throw them a couple of little delicious treats to get them happy. I'm paraphrasing, but you know what? Historically, this is also true. Depressingly true. And if they clearly hadn't founded this game on the backs of political science, with each game coming with a 46-page educational booklet on the academic theories behind this game, I might be offended, but as it stands, the amount of care and consideration and theory and knowledge that has been poured into this game really changes my initial feeling. But at the same time, working to middle class all day, baby! Unless, of course, we do have some wealthy elites watching this channel, in which case, please don't feel alienated and feel free to sign up for my Patreon! Which I swear is soon to come, and we'll talk about it at the end. So most of you can just skip it. Anyway, speaking of different classes, if you like Root, this might be something you'd be interested in. Because each class will play very differently and they'll get points in different ways. The state is basically the Woodland Alliance, so it seems from what I've read so far, supporting all the other people, getting points when the other people rely on them. The working class is, well, I guess the vagabond. Let's be real, but you have more workers, so probably not. I guess this is where the comparison ends. But this is going to be a game that is complex and rewards multiple plays. You can try it on Tabletopia, which is fantastic, and quite a few of these you can try on Tabletopia. I think the last few as well. I foolishly haven't been highlighting them. But honestly, I think even if you try it on Tabletopia, you're still going to be pretty confused. Or you won't be able to get in enough plays to really feel like you're going to have a grasp on this because of the asymmetric nature of the game. And if that excites you, then definitely check this out. But it is going to feel like it's a lot to absorb because I think this is a game that feels very considered. It really does seem like a thesis wrapped up in a board game. And it's actually incredible to me that so many people are responding so positively to it. Just based on theme alone, I would think that Hegemony and Resurgence's totals would be swapped. And so it's really neat to see people taking an interest in this topic. And I really like that there are these different victory point conditions. Obviously, the different classes are capable of doing different things. The capitalists, their end goal is to have a whole bunch of money because that's what capitalists love. The working class, you want to increase your people's prosperity and hopefully let them have just enough money for a little bit of entertainment, which I find incredibly depressing because, well, it's highlighting the true fact that we tend to work our working class society to the bone, and so many people have barely their basic needs met and cannot afford the extra for those entertainments every time. So if you like escapism in a board game, well, move on to the next one. I mean, all that being said, It looks very complex, but it does look pretty decent, pretty interesting. I think sometimes people mistake complexity in a board game for it being a good game, but maybe it's my herd mentality kicking in. If you like asymmetrical games, this one feels rewarding. And hey, I want to reward it for it being so seemingly considered. Now the price point is not for the working class. It's 86 bucks Canadian, and shipping is outrageous, or at least to Canada. It's 25 euro to ship to Canada. So thanks, capitalist class. This one's out for me. But if you're interested, that is December 2nd at 11 a.m., which is a joint deadline of finishing with Megapulse. And I don't think we've had that in the 5 months or so I've been doing this. So hey, another first on the crowdfunding countdown. Anyway, speaking of the working class's woes, next we have co-op. Because there's nothing more working class than assembling a set of IKEA furniture with your partner. But be sure to take in your partner's needs while you do it, which they inexplicably won't tell you what they are. Because if you haven't gathered enough love languages by the end of the game, well, then you won't get to score enough meatballs to pass the test, and your partner will read you horrible things on the card like, "Why don't you ever care about my needs?" Or, "I think I only liked the idea of you. We've settled for each other," which coincidentally are all things that I've said during particularly brutal games of "and then we held hands." So if you like games like that, or Hanabi, or the Grizzlebird, there is this sort of incomplete information, and you have to speak the unspoken in a different sort of language. With your bodies. No, that would be cheating. With the confines of the game. Or if you really need to tell your partner that you need to break up and you're unable to do it without the help of this card game, well, hey, check this one out. 20 bucks, so standard for a Kickstarter. And that finishes 12:30 on December 2nd, Thursday. And still speaking of the working class, next up we have Class War. Jeez, what was in the water of this Kickstarter week? Bring back Deck the Halls. It's almost December. Stop highlighting the disparity between human beings. But I will talk about this one because one of their taglines is, "Ever play Magic the Gathering and think, instead of tapping mana, I wish I could tap the righteous anger of the proletariat?" So, yeah, that's pretty good. Honestly, I'm sold. Just go get this one. I don't even need to explain the rules. Except I do, because it really comes down to a two-player head-to-head card game. You're going to be playing with your asymmetrical deck and trying to enact your own laws or your own agenda by electing people who are sympathetic to your cause, whatever cause that may be. Fair wages, capitalism. It's not true. You can have fair wages and capitalism at the same time, I think. Who cares? This is a board game show. Let's talk about the fun. I used up all my commentary on Hegemony, and there's no real rulebook here anyway, so it's 45 bucks Canadian, and that is incredibly expensive for a pretty simple card game, but maybe that's what the capitalists just paid me to say. If you're interested, that is at 1:10 p.m. December 2nd. 2 more. Come on, baby. This is a long one. I'm tired. Oh, I do this for you. Now, next up, we have Call to Adventure Epic Origins. And this is sort of a sequel to Call to Adventure, which was on Kickstarter in 2018. Currently the top 1,000 of Board Game Geek, and this campaign is doing incredibly well as well, it being our second most funded at over $500,000 Canadian. And this is described as a hero crafting game. And really, in essence, it's more of a storytelling game where the story kind of matters. And the story gives you cool abilities that you can use to take down a boss. So you're gonna have these tragedy and triumph stats, and you're gonna have this destiny that you're moving towards. You're moving your hero forward, and so every card you're gonna get is gonna try to get you more points to the triumph or tragedy, or both, depending on what destiny you are eventually going to achieve. So you're gonna be picking these cards and adding them to your little tableau. And instead of rolling dice to check for successes, instead you're gonna roll or throw these specialized runes, which, and I'm trying to separate my love for the movie Stardust here. He had the heart of the star. Oh my God, it's probably one of my most favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie of all time, and made me love Charlie Cox before he achieved his Daredevil fame. Anyway, it's got runes in it. They throw it in one great shot. That's pretty much it. Mark Strong as well. Oof, so good. And I realized that dice would likely be better to roll rather than just chucking these odd runes and going, did I cheat? There's only 2 sides. Did I let them kind of slip out of my hand? But then again, they're runes, and it's more fun than chucking dice because it's different. And probably more affordable too, so. What's cool about this is that a finished game your character can be converted into a 5e D&D campaign character sheet with like all of your initial stats, which makes it seem really cool and kind of like an awesome transition from the board gaming sphere into the D&D sphere. A really neat way of creating these fun fantasy characters. Might this have been completely inspired by Tom Vassel's review of the original Call to Adventure? I don't know. I know that he mentioned it. I don't know if it existed before then. It's 52 bucks Canadian, and it is a really light game. So you're gonna have to decide for yourself if it's worth it for you, or just really pick up a copy of the original, because as far as I can tell, there aren't that many differences from this one. You just get more different story options. So if you're interested in that one, that is December 3rd at 1 a.m. And finally, our last one of the week, we have Rainbow River. And no, this is not a board game based on the life of contestant River from the US's Circle Season 2. Let's be real, Chloe was the complete star of that season. But this is our final game of the week, and we needed it so I could say that I covered the whole week, and not just 3 days. Can you believe all of those games were on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? That's bananas. Anyway, Rainbow River is competitive Forbidden Island meets Carcassonne meets Sagrada's extra scoring objectives meets Santorini. Okay, not really. I'm just throwing out names at you that you've probably heard or most likely heard. But basically, there's going to be this 7x7 grid, and you're going to move a pawn and take the river space that your pawn was previously on, leaving an empty space. And you're going to put that onto your own river. And you're going to keep moving your pawns and keep taking away spaces until no pawn can move. And then you're going to add up all your river tiles. You get 1 point for every river, and then you get extra points if you got your special rainbow rivers that you like the best. And the person with the most points wins. Seems very simple, decent concept, and a pretty decent price point too. 25 bucks Canadian? You're going to get a bunch of tiles? That's what you probably pay for a game of Carcassonne. Shipping, it says, is going to be $10 flat worldwide. Also a pretty good deal. It definitely might be something to consider. I don't think I'm personally interested in it because I have games that would scratch the same itch that I still enjoy and don't need this extra refresher on. So probably not for me, but there's certainly worse choices to make on this list. So if you are interested, this one had a low funding goal. It still made its funding goal. It will print, but if you want to support a really indie game, this would be the one to do. So that's Monday at 12:42 a.m., aka Sunday the 5th of December at night. And that is it. This was a surprisingly long one, but we got them every single campaign. Well, okay, I know it's not actually every single campaign. Some weren't funding. Some stuff I miss, and some stuff is just bad that I can't really make a joke about. Or so far away from funding that even my flowery tongue can't incite the masses to support it. Like I could ever do that anyway. I'm under no illusions. But I still appreciate you hanging out. Anyway, each week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. The pick for me being one that I'm particularly interested in, and I think the pick for you being the one that I feel will have the most general appeal. And so this week, my pick for me is going to be Karigar-e-Taj, the Artisans of the Taj Mahal. And this was a surprise to me, a pleasant surprise. This was one of those campaigns where I clicked on, I said, I really hope this is good. And it turns out to look like it's good. It's a nice price point. I like that it isn't too expensive. 45 bucks Canadian seems reasonable for what you get. I think there are some interesting mechanics with the worker placement and the movement that happens there. Yeah, it seems, I really like this one. It captured me with the story. It captured my heart, like the sentimental fool that I am. I think this one is definitely worth taking a look at a little bit more in detail, or watching their campaign video. So go check that one out. You can make your decision for yourself, but that is the one that I personally am probably the most interested in. It's close because my pick for you, something that I also am quite interested in, and that is Resurgence. This one looks really cool. It looks really, really neat. The theme really draws me in. I like bag building. There's just something about it that, well, it's easier than shuffling a whole bunch of cards, I guess. It's just deck building, really. But I think also bag building with the worker placement element is interesting, and that tension of where to put your people behind your screen, well, that's something that I like, I guess. This one seems good. It's still a little expensive for me after shipping. Like, I'm probably not going to get it, but I think there's enough going on here, and this is unique enough, and it also is one that it's Stan Krodansky's first foray into like publishing on his own. So And I think that's reflected in the funding count. So I'm not sure how widely available this one will be. And I think there's a lot of nice moving parts to it. It kind of reminds me of, now I forget the name, Révolution? It's something French. The French one. You know what I'm talking about, the French one with the aliens. Oh yeah, I will edit it. It's right there. That's what it's called. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that because of all the moving parts, and that one excited me in a similar way to this. Bunkers of Arcosa was another one that kind of excited me in a similar way. I think I like these moving part elements, and I see this being one where all of those moving parts will be satisfying. So even though it's on the higher end, I don't think it is like an overblown price point either. For what you're getting, it seems pretty decent. $55 US is a good price point for something that looks like it'll be pretty quality. So also take a look at that one. See if you want to get yourself a little treat. That's my pick for you, Resurgence. That's it officially. The official show's over. As always, let me know what you're backing, what you're interested in, anything upcoming. We'll see if we do another one of these next week. Hopefully. I like doing them, even though I was very late doing this one, and I won't go to sleep until I post it, probably. But also, this also marks us hitting 3,000 subscribers, which is a really cool feeling for me. And again, I do this all the time, but I mean it all the time, so thank you. Thank you everybody who keeps watching, sharing, subscribing. You're all incredible. I will probably be starting a Patreon soon. I've been holding off on it because I want to prove that, you know, I can provide value and I can provide consistent value, and I always feel weird about like asking for money or asking for support, even though these things do take like over 12 hours to create and complete. But a couple of you have reached out incredibly generously. You know who you are. It's really cool that you want to support the channel and you want to support me continuing to create stuff in these sorts of ways, and that I'm honored that you have reached out looking for ways to support. So I will be putting up a Patreon soon. Let me know in the comments what the best platform is. I'm assuming it's Patreon. I've done a little bit of research into it. There's also this one called Ko-fi or Coffee, which has slightly less fees, but I think just for the ease of people signing up, Patreon is the way to go. So that's what I'm probably going to do. Heard good things about OnlyFans though, so maybe I'll start one of those. That'll be a separate tier. But yeah, honestly, it's really cool. Let me know how you feel if you support other people's Patreons, what you're looking for, and then I'll get up a Patreon on Discord where we can all hang out, and you can give me suggestions for new videos, and I'll got some other ideas in the works as well. To give back as much as I can. I'll try to continue to create more content, try to up my filming schedule as much as I can. I already kind of treat it like it's a full-time job, which is bad for the amount that I'm able to produce. That's just the speed at what it takes right now. So anyway, enough of that tangent. I don't like talking about it for so long. I just like hanging out with you, talking about board games, and I appreciate you all. Super cool to hit the 3,000 milestone. On to the next one, 3,024. It's the next step. It's the official next step. As always, yeah, let me know what you're backing in the comments. I'm always interested. And until next time, I still don't have a catchphrase, but I got 9 cards, 9 dice, and 9 cubes, baby. See you in the next one.